How you doing? This is Catherine Isabel Jennings for Your Life Matter News and Comment. Today is, December 14th? No way. No, it's December 8th. I was looking at the time, 12:14. Anyway, how is everyone going? I'm going to just give you like a brief summary. The two major videos that I have that I would like to update are on my page as of this morning. One of them is, of course, my buddy from Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, wonderful guy with so much knowledge of our due process with regard to the Constitution and elections and election fraud. I will be talking about that briefly, as well as Tucker Carlson. He just, what a bombshell this one is. I'm actually trying to quote his video almost verbatim because it probably will be pulled, because he is basically talking about the Chinese government and its relationship to Wall Street and our political machine. Very interesting. I'm going to send you over to my Facebook with the Tucker Carlson video, which for me was about 11 hours ago. But just look at my latest Tucker Carlson. Fabulous insight. The quotes that I'm using are the Chinese verbatim. Oh God, I can't remember. The transposing from the Chinese language verbatim. Wow, people. We need to get on this and pass that forward, please. Please pass anything that I have on there. I'm trying to give you as direct data as it comes in, because this particular page, this Facebook page, tends to be of one mindset, and I'm trying to give you an opportunity to entertain and ascertain and delve into other factual stuff for your own self, instead of being bought by a biased media and looks like Wall Street. Oh my God. Okay, so let's move into this. So one of the things that was Tim Fitton from Judicial Watch, he's such a data geek on our due process. Please, people, if you don't know something and you think that you're listening to the right information, go to the source. In this case, go to Judicial Watch to get your data, and then look at the circumstances through those eyes again, because you'll get the perspective, the right constitutional background of why things have to be done a certain way. It's kind of like very, very basic. Okay, if you have a messy room as a kid and you want to do something, and your mother, you want to do something, you can't go and do it because you have to pick up your room and you have to put things away where they belong. Otherwise, she's still not going to let you do it. This is what I'm trying to get at. A very simple analogy that you don't just listen to someone spurting off this and that and this. Look at your sources and look at the funneling system that they're using, the delving system that they're using, and then say, okay, well, this person's really good at this topic or this series, or their colleagues are really good in this area. Go to a source that is specializing in that. In this case, it is Judicial Watch with Tim Fitton. There's also Dr. Turley. He is amazing. I have videos of him. Super updates, very quick ones, so you understand what's going on with due process. I believe it's Dr. Steve Turley on my Facebook. Please look at him. These guys are your data geeks for the Constitution and our due process for elections, or really anything, okay? So basically, one of the concerns is with Tim is what's been going on since the election. Well, there's been fraud. You don't know about the fraud, some of you, but the data is far-reaching, and it's been being compiled and layer after layer from at least 6 different states. Okay, that's why we cannot say we have a president, because the data is coming in by droves and the affidavits are coming in by droves, and the glitches in systems are being recognized and being documented by droves. You cannot, by any means, you cannot uh, make a decision based on hearsay because a bunch of people called media are saying so. This is not how we do elections. This is not our due process of our Constitution. And I'm trying to share that with you so you can open up a little bit and skew yourself in a different direction to get more, because you're not being fed the normal due process and it's not even being acknowledged anymore. Okay, so what Tim is saying though is, as Giuliani is doing his mega legs of delving, and he's compiling it, and the hearings are happening in the different states, all of this, and Sydney Paula, she's doing her international research for fraud, and computers and that kind of stuff. This all of this data is coming back and it's being compiled and it's being submitted to the courts. Now, the problem that we have in the courts is both the district and the adjunct, appellant courts, are like, they're not even acknowledging documented data. They're not even acknowledging it. Do you know what that's like? I worked in the court system for a while, and all the way up to the Supreme Court. It's like having a marriage go bust, okay? Because I can use this as an analogy because that's where I was. Having a marriage go to the pits, and you are documenting, okay, maybe an abuse, okay, abuse in that relationship, and you're documenting it. You have data that says that you had psychological help, you had restraint orders, you had pictures of bruises, you had everything documented, okay, and you went to put it into their system, and they said, we don't want to see it. How can, this is what we're dealing with. And so for some reason, they're hiding the consequences of this data by not accepting a lot of it. And I think what's happening, and I believe Tim puts it well. He says what you have is the court systems, whether they're the district or the appellate courts, are afraid to ascertain and move in the direction of dealing with this scale, because you have tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of votes that were, and people's right to cast a vote were violated. And the violations of our Constitution on that magnitude, it's not just civil rights, it's more than civil rights. It's just the magnitude of the fraud for hundreds of thousands of votes is something that maybe a district or appellate court can't cope with. It's kind of like having, I'm trying to bring it personal because I'm a counselor. It's trying to like having PTSD over and over and over again, and you know it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and you can't cope. Well, maybe the structure of the district and appellate court can't handle it, so they're masking the facts. I'm just saying. So we do have to move forward no matter what. And what does that look like? We believe that the goal of this president, especially, the goal of Pennsylvania and the president's team, is to get up to the Supreme Court, because maybe, just maybe, it's not so overwhelming on that level. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I would say that sounds about right. So the other issue that Tim addresses is the fact that, and I've seen this, oh my God, I have seen this in the court system, okay? So everybody has a due process to move forward. And for instance, go back to that couple, there's all of these abuses, right? And that person has documented it, and they have presented it to the docket for stamping, and it hasn't been received. Well, it should be. I mean, once something's stamped and document, it is timelined, and it has a duration, a specific time by which it needs to be addressed under normal due process. But in this situation, the GOP has tried to amend its complaints, which they have the right to. We have the right under our Constitution and our due process to amend our rights, okay? But we have to go through the sequence. Interesting enough, the due process for the GOP's complaints are not being received. That is a violation of the Constitution as well. That is a violation of due process as well. So you have that's a big factor, because everyone should be able to have their say. And in this case, in the cases of our president, his due process, the due process of the elections, the due process of acquiring and receiving the data and and all of the facts of the case, it's not being received. This we should stand up and say, this is not right. We have every right to hit that docket. We need a timeline. So I'm telling the people of America, I'm saying, you care about due process, which we do. I love the walkway movement because they're doing things very well. They're doing the due process of their rights. I'm telling you, you have a right to call your legislator and say, look, this is going on, and we have the right to amend our complaints in a legal case, and we have a right to our normal due process, and our president and his cases on every level need to be heard, and we have the right to be heard. Okay. Okay, I got that. All right, I liked what I said here. One of the things that I've noticed, that if something is in docket form and the timeline is stamped, and I've seen this, and I know Giuliani and his whole team and the GOP's lawyered up team know that they've filed the dockets and they've punched it in, but they're not being heard. What I've seen in the court is this. They hold back from scheduling a time. They hold back of hearing, and so your president does not have his day in court. Now, there's a reason. I've come across two reasons why this due process, this part of the due process happens. The first one obviously is money. The longer you hold something out and are retained by legal services, the more it's going to cost you, okay? So I'm not too sure that that's the reason here. I think people are doing a lot of pro bono work, and if they're getting paid, it's because they should be getting paid for all of the stuff they're doing. But the other reason is to quash the truth. So when you're quashing the truth, you're preventing it from coming forward because it can bring an account itself, and by quashing the truth, it is a blatant disregard for the breaking of the Constitution, or the constitutional law. And a lot of times, like I said, I think, and this is my opinion, I'm not an attorney, I've just walked and worked in the court system a little bit, all the way up to the Supreme Court. My experience is that by quashing, you never have an opportunity to be heard. And what's interesting is I've seen, in my experiences, I've seen it on the district level, I've seen it on the appellate level, I've seen it on the superior level, which means the state court system, which has, oh gosh, I think it's 3 or 5 judges. And I've seen it on the Supreme Court through the state level. And finally, in the Supreme Court itself, here's what happens up there. You may never, ever, if you get that far of the due process, you may be quashed up on that level, and it's like a black hole. They have this sort of this, because there's so many court cases that are coming in to these court systems, they're picking and choosing which ones they want to deal with. And many times you can get all the way up to the Supreme Court on a state level, and not go any further. So, and it's kind of like a black hole for your court case, and it may never be heard. And in the case that I was dealing with very criminal judges, and I was watching a series of criminal judges just be so pompous that they were above the law. And we actually served 21 legal officials, including 7 judges. And it was pretty interesting to do that. It's on record that we did. And they now have a scar because we served them. But that one court case got all the way up to the Supreme Court, really could do a difference for family law, but it's been stuffed, and we're hoping the right situation, like Amy Coney Barrett, might look at it someday. It might be a very cool court case for her to look at. But in the meantime, it's in la la land. We did everything we did right. It was great all the way up to the Supreme Court. We did it all right, and it got that far. That just the fact that it got that far, and we did it pro se, is a freaking amazing accomplishment. So anyway, okay, so going back to Tucker Carlson, Tim Fenton. So he was asked about the computer software. Well, honestly, the retort that came out of him was there is strong evidence. They brought up Arizona, but he brought in, without bridging the filed complaints and the legal case against Arizona, he brought out a parallel. He said there is such strong evidence of computer fraud from the Smartmatic computer system, where Chavez stole the election in Venezuela, and that itself renders, can it happen to us? And because we use this, several states, I think it was 30 in all, to be honest with you, used the Smartmatic computer systems for our voting, okay? Which leads me to the Dominion security weaknesses. And we have found documented affidavit after affidavit on how Dominion has had major defects, calculated defects on purpose, used for voter fraud, and there's numbers that keep popping up, and I want to give you something first to think about before I go into the numbers themselves. So there was. First of all, Dominion's computers of receiving and counting ballots have been seized over in Germany, and What somebody did was they took a couple of these computers and they randomly just fed, let's say, 1,000 votes into the system that were Trump votes just to see what would happen. Out of 1,000 votes that went into the system, into the Dominion system, and I have the proof on this on my webpage. Out of the 1,000 or so votes, whatever the number was, 26% kicked back with a vote of Biden on it. That's a quarter of the votes that were only for one person kicked back to that the other person. You can't tell me that's not voter fraud or it's been programmed to do that. This is huge, people. Okay, so we're talking about numbers. Okay, so I posted, I guess, a couple of days ago, pre going to sleep time, or I don't think it was 10 o'clock or 11, I don't know, the day of the election, at least four or five of the states that are in question, the pictures of Joe Biden and his percentage and Donald Trump and his percentage, and it's on the screen. Okay, so there's a definite picture of both of them and their stats, the green and the blue under their pictures, whatever. And Trump had at least 50.2 and above response to, in the plus sign for voting. Then, for some reason, things were called to shut down. In our history, people, you got to understand, we have never shut down anything to stop the counting of votes. That right there is illegal. We need to sit and count everything until it's done being counted, or at least totally secured and no one in the room when it's shut down. This particular situation of shutting down the count happened in all those states where I shared the pictures of Biden this 40% and Trump this 50+%. Every single one of those areas were shut down for counting. That's the start of this fraud. It's the start of it. Election day only. Okay, I'm sure that the fact that we have had a change of due process for voting by letting things go not through legal amendment processes, but through just hearsay, populist, whatever. Right before an election is is wrong too. By voting or sending in your votes through the mail, it leaves a huge open door for fraud. And everybody knows it. I mean, even people that wrote our Constitution said something to that effect. Or someone back in the 1700s said, this could happen. We should not have this. So let's see. So back to due process, okay? I'm going to say this again. I've said this at least 9 times. Our American way of doing due process under the Constitution says this. You register to vote, you go to the place, or you file an absentee ballot, okay? You have proof of who you are, and you're registered as a voter, you're registered as an absentee voter. These are the 2 ways in which you can vote. You go in, you cast your vote, you have your ballot. It is then counted, and it's verified through its counting, and then the number comes up, and then it is certified. We have very little certifications we have certifications of the real ballots, but what we don't have is you can't certify something that isn't a real ballot. And we have this widespread problem. And anyone who says that we have an elected president based on not knowing the tally of the fraudulent or unregistered ballots is wrong. It's just, anyone who says that is incorrect. We don't have. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're mainstream media or billionaires, or it doesn't matter to me. If you're an American and you think for a second that you are too big to go bypass due process, you're in error. You're incorrect. Incorrect. Okay, so briefly, I just wanted to touch base on a few things that are going on in New York City. We've got a czar or an emperor called Governor Cuomo, and he is putting so much heat on the people, and he's constantly changing his narratives, the way he wants to do something. He's very indecisive, and you can tell me that it's COVID all you want. He's just being a bully and a control freak, and he needs to be taken out. And I'm not afraid to say that. He's being crude to people. We have this one owner of Max's Pub House in Staten Island, and right now you've got a few people who are standing up to his shenanigans, and he's saying, and I guess the guy Lou Gennarino is the lawyer for this case, and he's also a Staten Island business supporter, and he's been taking on all these cases for the small businesses. I commend you, Lou, for being an honest to goodness patriot and a person who cares about the small business person. The big thing that they're saying there is, why the heck is the media laughing at small businesses who are going through this terrible trying time, and they're getting all kinds of fines because they're trying to make $100 a week, while you got Walmart and it's multiple millionaires doing whatever they want to do and keeping open. It's just not right to hurt these little baby businesses that are trying to thrive and survive and succeed. And it's called capitalism, and Walmart is trying to hurt that, and all these big businesses can get away with anything they want. These little Staten Island business owners are getting arrested 2 and 3 times a week, while all this other stuff is going on with all these other big companies are making beaucoup millions, on the backs of the small business guy that has to close his doors. I think this is terrible. I do thank you, Lou, for standing up for we the people. I think that's awesome. And you have a whole crew over there, and I think that's a really, really awesome thing. Okay, so now I'm going on to Tucker Carlson, and I think this is going to drive you crazy. There has been so much that has been suppressed in our media that you don't know about, and this whole Hunter Biden thing was suppressed. His laptop was suppressed. They're minimizing it, and why are they doing it? Well, there's a narrative there that there's a reason why they're being suppressed, and they know it. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. So there's this video Tucker got a hold of, and in this video there is a professor of economics. He's a professor at the Renmin University in Beijing, and he broke down the relationship of China and Wall Street and international trade. The way I look at it and the way Tucker looks at it is as he's being this speaker on this topic, um, he also is a servant to the country of China. I believe that word servant. I believe that we are citizens. There's a difference. Okay, so this video, I'm going to almost read it verbatim. I hope you don't mind, but this video is really very intriguing to me. It was taken down immediately when it was posted in social media. Immediately. So I'm going to use quotes. Quote, "The Trump administration is in a trade war with the U.S. and China. Why can't we fix the Trump administration? Why? Between 1992 and 2006, all kinds of issues could be settled. Any kind of crisis that we came across, this means Chinese crisis, whether it's the bombing of an embassy, the Yinxi incident, the crashing of a plane. He says that in the past, we can resolve these things with the United States within a couple of months. All right. Why? Because we have old friends, he said. We have old friends in the U.S. Okay, so basically he went on to say, he tells the story. He says, we have top America's inner core power and influence as old friends. And that is a quote. We have America's inner core of power and influences as old friends. That tells the story right there. So, for decades, the media and the government at one point working with a VP, maybe an agent, who is a top Wall Street VP for a major financial company. They've been working hand in hand, China and this top VP agent. He said the agent is especially useful. American, there was one that they have that's an American living abroad for many years who is now a Chinese citizen. And the question that they ascertained was, why would the Chinese government allow dual citizenship? They normally do not allow dual citizenship, as well as most governments don't. So this economic professor is pleased that the U.S. government is foolish enough to allow it. This American agent, now living in Beijing, has helped the Chinese government with a propaganda operation in the city of Washington in 2015. I want you to get a hold of this. This is an economic professor whose words are being translated, and he's sharing this data. He said, the Obama administration was easy to manipulate. The Chinese had many friends of the Obama people. This should get you pissed off. The problem came when Donald Trump was elected. After that, everything changed. Let's go back. He says, the professor said, for the past 30 to 40 years, we have been utilizing the core powers of the United States. Since the 1970s, Wall Street had a very strong influence on domestic and foreign affairs of the United States, and we had a channel to rely on. We, meaning China, had a channel to rely on. The problems So they also said that the problem of Wall Street is the value of Wall Street kind of started to decline in 2008. Apparently, around 2008, they had an issue with Trump. It became awkward. So Trump had a previous soft default issue to Wall Street, which is a conflict between them. Apparently, this professor doesn't have enough time to give you the details. But during the United States and China trade wars, Wall Street tried to, quote, help Trump. My friends on the U.S. side told me Wall Street, quote, tried to help. Okay, this is where Tucker Carlson recaps. He says, since 1970, Wall Street has had a huge influence over how the U.S. government operates over its policies. The Chinese government, he says, has a huge influence over Wall Street. This arrangement worked very well for a long time. So basically, we've been bought since at least the 1970s. Then Donald Trump was unexpectedly elected in 2016, and Wall Street was infuriated. Wall Street can't fix Trump because there was another issue here. I believe that Trump saw through a lot of BS. But now, understand this. This is where the mystery gets solved. If you have wondered why our political class has stood by and allowed the Chinese government to degrade this country and our way of life, why the Chinese government has stood by and watched and has flooded our government with deadly opioids that have killed hundreds of thousands of our people, while the Chinese government has ripped off billions of intellectual properties from our countries, this is your answer. The answer is Trump has been a cog in their system, an impediment, and now he adds, now we have Biden back in, supposedly. He's supposedly elected. This is good. And you heard the people in the video laugh. And he goes, this Biden is the political elite and the established elite. And those are the ones that are in bed with Wall Street. So Trump is saying that Biden's son has some sort, and this is the professor quoting this, quote, by the professor, the economic Chinese professor, quote, Trump is saying that Biden's son has some sort of global foundation. Have you noticed this? Who helped him build his foundations? And there was a chuckle. So Trump complains that Hunter Biden is tied to the Chinese government. Tucker Carlson saying, based on those words that you just heard, that confirms that Hunter Biden has been influenced by Chinese and is working with the Chinese government, and the Chinese government has boosted his foundations. So you've got an admission of guilt from the Chinese side using this professor of economics saying so. So it was confirmed. So let's see. The other thing is, while that's happening, you also have big businesses from Wall Street, perhaps, aligning, big business, let's look at the media, that's big business too. You have big business aligned as one, including the big tech, to suppress the Biden story. And You know why? Because all of the big businesses, Wall Street, big tech, the media, are implicated in it. There you go. Wow. All right. So one of the comments on the side over there was this professor was saying, or no, I believe it's Tucker Carlson. Please forgive me. There is a proof that there's a $5 million loan to the BD family, and that is under Tony Bobolinsky, who was a business partner, who said in October that, yes, there was a $5 million business loan to the BD family. And he said, this is the Biden family. So he is bridging the communist government. That $5 million loan was, in fact, from China. And the big issue here is if a Biden gets in as a leadership, for our country, Tony Bobolinsky said it perfect from Tucker Carlson. What do you think is the probability here? What are the effects? And he said, well, to be honest with you, that means if the Bidens get in, that whole family has been compromised, which means the whole country has been compromised. So that's maybe crazy stuff, you know. Yeah, so I'm just trying to see what else I got for you. Yeah, okay, so the other thing I wanted to touch base with you really quickly before I go is I'm going to do some more research on what it means to be a populist. I'm going to put the seed in your brain that it's neither left or right. It's not conservative or liberal. A populist person, and I kind of put myself in this, at least temporary, I don't know, is a person who is in line and in alignment with the integrity and the direction of the majority of the population. And in this case, we are aligning ourselves with the Constitution because we found that there was corruption on both sides of the coin. And this is all I want to say about that. The other thing I want to talk about the next time I get on, I probably will discuss the populist party as well as FEMA. What is their power ranking? I think that it would be interesting for you to look at that. On Friday, I will be on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock. I might get on at 10. I don't know. These days, my husband has had a physical issue. But I would like to get on and talk about ongoing PTSD. What does it look like? How does it manifest itself? PTSD of the soul, PTSD of the spirit, PTSD of the body, and what you can do while you're in the middle of it. Thank you for listening to me. Your Life Matters News and Comment. I would like for you to subscribe to my page if you want under Facebook, Catherine Jennings. Please subscribe. I'm going to upload all of my videos there. Until then, your life matters. You're awesome. And God bless.